a 3-loss SEC team to make the playoff this year?
I think no way. No way.
Who? Georgia? If they lose to Tennessee?
No way.
I have a lot of questions.
I'd be blown. They need a lot of help.
Three losses overall, right, Christian? Not in the conference. 3 losses overall?
Yeah, just a 3-loss SEC team, because you kind of think about that sore thumb of Indiana. They lose to Ohio State.
A one-loss Indiana will 1,000% get in over a 3-loss SEC team.
I'm just saying.
Two loss, there's definitely a conversation.
They're begging to put Alabama and Georgia in this thing. They're praying. I guarantee you that committee is praying.
But you got to value the quality wins. And Indiana probably won't have anything that'll hold a candle to anything any of the 3-loss SEC teams could have.
But at a certain point, you got to play who you play, and they won 11 games.
I got to dissect something now that we're back in studio. Now, I think Colin said this because it was overreaction Monday. I don't think he actually meant it. Colin said Indiana was going to beat Ohio State yesterday. I want to know if that was just an overreaction Monday bit because we were overreacting. But Colin,
I think they're going to compete with them. I don't know if they're going to. Who am I going to claim? I think they're going to play well. If they play well, that means they have a chance to win. That's what I think. I think that's going to be their Super Bowl game. I do not think they're going to get blitzed.
The reason I'm pressing him on this is because if Indiana beats Ohio State, I don't think Ohio State gets into the playoff. How do you put a team that's not playing on championship, whatever it is, Saturday, and has 2 losses in a miserable Big Ten conference? And I understand the loss came from what would be a top 4 Indiana team and the number 1 team in the country, Oregon. How do you tell a 2-loss SEC team the Buckeyes are getting in over them, but you have better wins and played a harder schedule?
But that's exactly what you just tell them. Their 2 losses are to 2 top 4 teams in the overall ranking, and they have a win over another team that's going to get in Penn State. That's what you tell them.
Pending your Nittany Lions, who do you got the last 2 weeks?
A bunch of garbage.
Nobody.
Good.
Nobody.
Good.
So that's why, it's a matter of if you want to say an SEC team's going to get left out, let's draw a picture in which an SEC team would be left out, or can't be left out, I should say. If you're going to have multiple 2-loss SEC teams, let's assume, for the sake of argument, that Tennessee has 2 SEC losses to finish the year, right? Because they'll lose to Georgia. So Georgia will have 2 losses. Tennessee will have 2 losses. Ole Miss, let's assume they win out because I don't think they have an impossible schedule this year. They just have Florida, and then they have Mississippi State. So I'm going to assume that the Ole Miss will finish with 2 losses. Alabama, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Mercer. Who do you want this 3-loss team to be? If there's anybody that will have a chance, you got to assume. Let's make this Alabama, right? Alabama loses to Auburn. There's our 3-loss team.
Or Georgia, Colin. They could lose to Tennessee this weekend.
Yeah, but then they would be less of a decision-making factor.
Okay.
But I understand the point. You want to make it Georgia because they have that win over Texas?
Yeah.
All right. So Alabama will have 2 losses, and Georgia will have 3. The reason I would want Alabama to be that 3-loss team is because they have the head-to-head over Georgia, but I understand the point. So Georgia's going to be that 3-loss team. Alabama's going to get in. Tennessee's going to get in. A&M?
I think the question is who's going to win the conference and who are the 2 teams going to be in the conference championship. I think 8 teams, and hear me out on this, I think 8 teams are already solidified. Notre Dame, the 4 conference winners, the group of 5 team, and then the runner-up in the Big Ten championship, the runner-up in the SEC championship. Would you agree on all that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 8 teams right there. That leaves 4. Are you going to put in 2 SEC teams? Or are you going to put 2 Big Ten teams in?
Both. You have 4 left. There's your answer. So you're going to put it that, in my opinion, unless this Indiana loss is that ugly, then
they'll screw Indiana. In my opinion, if Indiana loses Ohio State in any fashion, I think they screw over Indiana because they don't have a good win and they throw in another SEC team.
If they're competitive, if it's a 1-score or even a 2-score game where they belong in the same field, Indiana's safe. But if it's an ugly loss,
then that's be a conversation. But if it's they lose by 13 on the road, they lose 43-30 or something like that.
Want to remind everyone, this was the same committee that told Florida State to kick rocks last year,
and rightfully so.
I agree with you, but
it's a different ball game now. But why are we putting? You're going to put a 3-loss LSU or a
no? LSU's done.
Texas A&M loses another game. They have 3 losses, and their losses would be to Texas and Notre Dame as well. 2 teams that are going to be in.
Yeah, the marquee win for A&M would be
LSU?
Yeah, exactly. So, no, that wouldn't be your best example. A 3-loss A&M's definitively out.
Alabama or Georgia at 3 losses is what you're saying.
That's the conversation.
It's what it's going to have to be. And Alabama's I love the rivalry. I appreciate people bringing up Auburn because I want Auburn to be good. I want them to be a storied program again, but they stink.
They should have beat them last year, and they should, going into the game, they shouldn't have been on the same field as Alabama. But
I'll hear it.
They should have beat them when they were on the same field.
Listen to it, man. Milroe made an incredible play.
So, in this situation, you'd have to put in 5 SEC teams for a 3-loss Georgia to get in, because if Georgia loses to Tennessee, Ole Miss, 100% in. Texas, 100% in. Tennessee, 100% in. Alabama, 100% in. Those are 4 locks. You'd put in your other 3 conference champions. That's 7. You'd put in your group of 5. That's 8. Notre Dame is 9. You'd put in that Big Ten runner-up. 10. Now, do you put in a 3rd Big Ten team? Probably. You're looking at 11. So you got 1 team left, and you can either put in that 4th Big Ten, or for whatever reason, if Colorado steals a bid against BYU, if they want to throw them a bone, or a 3-loss SEC team, and that's not even considering A&M.
We have our group of 5 in there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
So you'd have to have a decision-making whether to put in a 4th Big Ten team, a 5th SEC team, or a runner-up in something like the Big 12.
Also, I don't think Notre Dame's in Penn.
Say that again?
Notre Dame isn't in Penn. I don't think they could easily win one of these last 3 games of their season. Just slip up.
You mean lose to Army, USC?
They're playing really, really well right now.
They are.
They're playing as good as any team in the country.
Your only hope is Army. I'm done, and Colin's going to be relieved. I'm done trying to make a case for USC being a good football team this year. I've taken off my Big Ten hat on that, as reluctantly it may be. You bring them into the conference, and they have that kind of stinker this year. I'm intrigued to see what happens. Colin, you mentioned a Big 12. The only chance a Big 12 team that could get in if they lose is BYU, because I think BYU is going to end the year undefeated after beating Utah. But I don't even see them putting a 1-loss BYU and a conference loser in BYU in. I really don't even see that.
But then the perspective is, how do you explain that
to the committee?
To the other conferences?
This is the most, when they unveil this 12-team playoff, it will be the most important moment in college football history of the past 25 years. Because it's the precedence.
It is.
You are telling exactly.
It's a fresh start.
These conferences know, but my answer to you, Colin, the committee doesn't give a hoot, okay? They don't care about the Big 12 and the ACC.
But if they want to keep the conferences together, they should, because that's part of the reason why that's a contract.
Is that important to them?
Yeah, because they need to keep conferences together. Yeah.
You don't think they want a Super League?
How can you say that? I don't know. It's an 11-year contract that most of these conferences had. The SEC just signed. The Big Ten just signed. There'd be buyouts worth more than some NASDAQ companies. And whether you wanted to do that or not.
Dude, do we not? And then
you'd have to tell a 1-loss Indiana to kick rocks in favor of a 3-loss Georgia, who has lost 3 good games, has beaten Clemson, beat Texas, and got killed by Ole Miss.
Their rebuttal would be beat somebody.
But they can't control that schedule. You can't blame. So now we're blaming the Big Ten for having a bad bottom half
conference.
Okay, but
get punished for it.
So you want to throw the Big Ten and the SEC? Those are the great conferences. We're not punishing Penn State, but we're going to punish Indiana. Why is that? Why are we punishing Penn State? Why are we not punishing Penn State, but we're punishing Indiana? Because Penn State lost to Ohio State?
No, because Penn State travels, and the committee would rather have a team of history like Penn State in it than Indiana.
Then your precedence is all out of whack.
But you can't
do it off of brand versus...
You know these teams will give the benefit of the doubt to the bigger football teams.
Right, and maybe that happened. I'd be shocked. That is a bad precedent to set.
And you also got to consider the vernacular that's been used in the past in the 4-team playoff. They wanted the 4 best teams. When it comes to the at-large bids, they will want the best teams left out of a conference championship.
CCAT and Colin, who would win, Indiana or Penn State?
Indiana.
CCAT?
I would put Penn State as probably a 4.5-point favorite on a neutral field.
I'm with you on that.
You guys are so high on Penn State. It's unbelievable.
It's not that high. I mean, we're talking about a team that's lose to Ohio State. I might bounce them out of the playoffs.